So what happened to the wall is that I ripped down the nasty fake sign that was held in by very strong adhesive. That was
Near impossible to remove.
I actually spent almost
Me
25
minutes
and I didn't even have
and
any glue
Gugon.
gun. And I put up these acoustic panels everywhere, so you may notice that the audio quality of the stream is higher than it used to be when I was up in the front. There are no more early reflections or flutter echoes in this section of the store because I have acoustic panels everywhere. As you can see, acoustic panel there, acoustic panel there. So I got about 12 acoustic panels. They're beautiful. I have 12 of these, about $700 or $800 after the shipping. Well worth it, because now the front of my store sounds nicer. So not only do you get the benefit of superior audio quality while listening to these streams, I hate when I hear early reflections and flutter echo in videos. Hopefully the customers walking in will be a little happier when there's multiple people talking to each other here and noises of tools, that it is less annoying, stressful, and just harsh sounding. I'm hoping that the superior environment makes customers happier, more likely to leave positive reviews, more likely to spend money on things rather than leave feeling paranoid that Kilted Tim is actually correct and that we are burning their money. You got people going out of their way to make you sound like you're a scammer on Apple.com that moderate parts of the site. Well, you got to pull out all the stops. And we may not look professional, but I'll be damned if we don't sound professional. No early reflections or flutter echo in my store. Someone says, I bet 20 and okay that this MacBook Air only has a bad Jtag connector. That is a very, very quick way to lose 20 knock. I wish this was just going to be a Jtag connector. So let me know how the sound is on this versus the last few videos I've done up in the front. I hope it sounds better. Video. If there's several conversations going on at once, I'm hoping that it makes it easier for me to understand what's going on. The more a customer feels stressed or confused or overwhelmed in any way, the less likely they are to spend money. The fixing part of this business is actually very easy. I mean, it's so easy that even an idiot like me, that as you saw in my other live video the other day, can't do his fractions and multiplication and division properly. Even me, who can't do his fraction matching and all that, can manage to fix MacBooks. This part is dirt simple. All the board repair stuff is dirt simple. The hard part is dealing with people. And one of the things that makes dealing with people a little easier is finding these small ways to make them feel less stressed that they don't even notice. Because the less a person feels stressed or weirded out by you, the more likely they are to spend money on having you fix their stuff. So, this here is the new MacBook Air. This is the A1932. This is the future of the MacBook Air. So the first thing I'd like to do is see what it is they're saying it does. So they claim liquid damage, no power. I am going to plug in this MacBook Air and see if that's the case. So, as I was saying, if a A1534 MacBook is going to want 20 volts, I have a feeling that the new MacBook Air is going to as well. And when I hit the power button, it's not doing nothing. It's still taking 200 milliamps at 5 volts. That's not enough to turn on and work. So let's get started by taking pieces out of this machine. So we are going to start taking this thing apart, and we're going to see what my board looks like and also see if we make any progress on it turning on after I have unplugged a lot of the machine. So let me just get myself a T5. Do you have donor boards for that model? No, I don't. I have nothing for this. I have no schematic. I have no board view. I do not have donors. We're going to have to wait for the drones at the factory to go over to the garbage and start taking these things out of the garbage and putting them on the internet for sale. They're going to have to get past Kilted Tim, though. Kilted Tim? Kilted Tim. So the first thing I find interesting is that if we take a look over on our audio board, the audio board is quite corroded. This is all some pretty nasty stuff over here, but I'm not as concerned with the audio board because I don't think any of this is going to cause it to be completely dead. And even if it was going to cause it to be dead, I don't think the audio board is going to cause this to be stuck at 5 volts on the charger. That doesn't seem likely to me, because I don't believe that audio is powered by pp3v3_g3hot, and even though this is a newer model, I don't have any reason to believe that they've entirely changed the architecture of everything. Now we're going to take a look over the actual MacBook motherboard itself. Now this is one of the best microscope cameras that you're ever going to find. And I say that because this microscope in particular has this specific tube. I can't figure out how to fit this setup on any other microscope, but for some reason this is much better than those really long tubes that kind of have a tendency to add all this chromatic abrasions and vignetting. Alright, so the first thing I notice here is significant corrosion. So, I suppose one of the things I should do before I even get started on this is see if I have the same behavior when it's out of the machine that I did when it was in the machine. So when I plug this in, it's still doing 5 volts and 0 to 300 milliamps. So we're getting about the same general behavior. Now, as you can see, the architecture here is not too entirely changed, because right next to those 2 charge ports, you'll see that we have 2 CD3215 chips. So the CD3215s on the other MacBooks are what talk to the charger itself. And here we have those CD3215s. Now what I am interested in is where pp3v3_g3hot would be going to those CD3215s. I also want to see if pp3v3_g3hot is there. Remember, pp3v3_g3hot powers the CD3215s, and they do need to turn on in order to speak to the charger and negotiate 20 volts from our charger. The problem is, I don't have a board view for this board, so I'm going to have to kind of guess where I would expect pp3v3_g3hot to be. Let's see if I can find a number for this MacBook motherboard anywhere. Because maybe if I find the number of the board, one of you lovely people watching would be able to find me a schematic. Here we go. So this is an 820-01521-02 motherboard. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Firefox window. Since I have stopped using Google Chrome, I realized that it's completely and utterly ridiculous to think at this point that I'm going to get Google out of my life entirely. But I'd like to take them out of my life just a teeny tiny bit at a time, because the other day I found out that without me opting in, that every time I used voice to text on my phone, that my phone for the last 7.5 fucking years has been saving an audio clip of everything I've ever said. So when you hit that little microphone button on an Android phone, every time I've been hitting that microphone button from 2012 to the present, it has been saving not just the transcript of what I said, it's also been saving the audio of what I said. So now, I did happen to dig through my account and find the settings to figure out how to turn that shit off, but what really creeps me the fuck out is that that is something that I had to opt out of, not opt into. I don't understand when in this arrangement, when did we get to the point where we said as a society that it's okay that you can keep an audio recording of every single thing I've ever fucking said using a voice-to-text keyboard for 7.5 years, and that this is going to be opt out rather than opt in. As soon as I saw that, I'm going through all of my Google services and all the things that I rely on Google for, and I am slowly looking to opt the fuck out of having them in my life. I switched over to Firefox. I'm deleting as much shit from all of my Google accounts as I can. I'm sure they probably store this crap forever, and when I run for office 30 years from now, they're going to find the one joke I said out of context in 2007 and say that I'm evil. My next phone is, I want to get one of those Librem phones. Fuck Android. I am focusing as much as I can on my Vimeo account. Fuck YouTube. I'm uploading videos to Vimeo before I upload them to YouTube. Even though I get paid money if you watch on YouTube, and I pay to be able to use Vimeo, I would still prefer that you watch my videos on Vimeo. It's always listening for the OK Google command. You can play back all the files it sends to the cloud. Oh, that's the other thing. That thing where you say, OK Google, do you know how many areas of the phone you have to go through to turn that shit off? It's not just one area. It's not just one place that you go to. There were 3 different places I had to go through to turn that shit off. And yeah, the information is out there on how to turn it off, but it is so fucking buried. When I realized it wasn't that I was necessarily that I knew exactly what they were doing, but when I realized how hard it was to figure out how to turn off these settings, that's what set it off in my head. Why are you making it that hard? Why is the information that buried on how to turn off this feature? It creeped me the fuck out. I know what you guys are doing. It wasn't having a specific piece of proof or evidence, but rather it was just the cultural aspect of it, the philosophical aspect of it, that you made it as hard as humanly possible to turn off that feature. Why did you make it as hard? Why did you hide the information? You have enough information on how people use products. You've sold enough products by now that you know damn well how to make that user-friendly, how to make it user-friendly to turn off that feature, and you didn't. And that is, there's a good reason for that. because they are a bunch of sick, creepy fucks. Yeah, and people that say Amazon's likely equally as bad as Google, again, I got no love for any of these particular companies. You know, when I say that there are things that Apple does when it comes to their policies on repair or how they treat independent repair shops, I am not saying that as someone who has Eric Schmidt's dick in his mouth. I'm not saying that as somebody who is a fanboy for any other platform. No, I'm fully aware that the alternatives are created by companies that have serious effing problems. It doesn't mean that because I dislike what one is doing that I co-sign what the other is doing. That being said, it appears that I am not going to be finding any schematic on the internet for this, which means that I am going to be guessing. Maybe if I were better friends with someone at Google, I would be able to bring up a recording from the microphone of somebody's fucking phone where they said which capacitor on here is the one that has PP3V3 underscore G3 hot. Wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't that be beautiful? Could care less about recordings, praise AI overlord. You go to hell and you die, Brian Knudsen. The reason they do that is to use your voice data for the machine learning data sets. The reason Google software is better than the competition is because they know what you said in 2007. However, they should make it much easier to opt out. I agree. The reason that I can say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and that it understands me very well is because that data is there. However, I'd say two things. A, in 2010, when I got my first Android phone, I got the HTC Incredible right before Samsung stopped producing the panels for HTC. It's funny. As soon as Samsung said, we'd like to start making a flagship Android phone, it's funny how they just totally fucked over HTC, and the LED screens that they were providing for them became very rare. But anyway, again, no fanboy of Samsung either. But what's really interesting to me is that it understood my voice perfectly well back then. I've never had any sort of Google device with microphone before. If you're going to say that you're going to save every fucking recording of everything I've ever said, you're not putting that in page 70 of some very legalese TOS. That's the type of thing where I want there to be a fucking alert on my screen in size 72 font, even if it's on a damn 4-inch screen that says, we are going to save everything you have ever said, ever. Here, it is obvious. It's on the screen with, are you sure? Make me type in my password to my damn phone. Make the thing scream, are you actually listening to what we're telling you, jackass? Because it may be legal for you to put that on page 60 or 70 of a TOS and not let me know. That may be legal, but what that means is that once I figure out that that is what you consider to be okay, once I figure out that that is where your sense of morals and ethics are, that's cool. It just means I ain't using your shit anymore. And I will do everything I can to not use your stuff anymore. Because if it said in big letters, hey, we would like the option, do you want to opt in to having no privacy in exchange for making our products better? Fine. I have no problem with that. You put it on page 60 to 70 of some bullshit TOS, fuck you. Fuck you. Like, as soon as you do that, fuck you. As soon as you do that, that's cool, but I will do my best to get people to migrate from YouTube to Vimeo. I will stop using an Android phone. I am deleting almost all of my Gmail accounts and all the stuff in them and using my own stuff. I will be using DuckDuckGo. My Lex phone is going to be the Librem phone. I will get Google out of my life as much as I can because, again, it's fair game. It's legal that you do that. That's cool. Just means that I ain't using your stuff anymore. That I have repeated myself 20 times. Let's see if we have 3 volts going into this chip. Now, usually it's one of these 4 capacitors next to the CD3215 that's going to have the 3.3 volts near it. So let's see, which one of these? Any of these capacitors? So we have 1.5 volts there that goes up to 3, and it kind of loops. And here we have a steady, straight-up happy 3.3. This one also loops. Now I'm going to take a look at the amount of amperage the charger is taking and see if that looping has anything to do with what the charger is taking. Now I'm going to guess that this is PP3V3 underscore G3 hot, and I say guess because I have no way of being certain. And it does seem to loop. Alright, so what could be causing this to loop? Let's take a look over the board. I think this over here, I don't think that that's corrosion. I think that that's just dust. This is also a backlight circuit. So I'm not really interested in backlight circuit right now. This side of the board also seems fairly clean to me. There's nothing here that aggravates me. Okay, this is also... Yeah, you're corroded, but you're by the speaker. This looks like a speaker connector to me, so that's not something I would consider a big deal. Here we have what appears to be a Jtag connector. My You know, I'm going to lose 20 NOK if removing that actually fixes this. I will lose money if this fixes my board, but I'm going to do it anyway. Has he mentioned how he feels the sound dampening is working or not? Is it working? I guess I'll be able to tell when you guys tell me if your sounds are different from the other streams. Someone says you either live in fear of being watched or you feed it garbage data. Yeah, that's the other thing I've been thinking of doing, is just having the voice-to-text feature automatically like switch itself on and off and have all sorts of people use it, feeding it garbage data. Because feeding it garbage data is what is the if you can't delete the data, then you might as well bury what's there. That's the way I see it. So as you can see, that was once a Jtag connector, and that Jtag connector has been removed using the proper protocol of burning it until it's dead, and then continuing to burn it over and over and over and over and over and over again. That is the proper way to remove a Jtag connector, and that is the proper procedure for troubleshooting an A1932 that's not turning on. Okay? Alright, so now I'm going to plug it in and see if we have any difference in our results. The data all anonymized, so there's really nothing to bury. Feeding it garbage data is a shit move to the developers, not the company. You hurt the company by making people aware this is a thing. The data isn't actually anonymized because it's available when I log into my own account. So a lot of that data, if I had not known about this, let's say that my Gmail account got hacked. Since this was an opt-out program rather than an opt-in program, if my Gmail account were compromised, I would assume that the only thing that I had to worry about is that my Gmail, my calendar, and that were compromised. However, because they were fuckfaces that made this as an opt-out feature rather than an opt-in feature, that means that if you compromise my Gmail account, you have not simply compromised my email, you have compromised me to the point of allowing somebody access to every conversation that I've had for 7 years. Every private conversation. Every time I've used really awful dark humor to get a reaction out of a good friend who would understand the context of that humor that nobody else would, you've given them access to that. Every time that I have been drunk off my ass and said something that my friend knows the meaning of, that nobody else is going to know the meaning of in the right context, you have now given them access to that. Every personal conversation I've had about anything private that I thought was simply just going out into the ether once it was done, has been you've given me access to that. So no, I don't give two flying fucks about the developers. My heart does not bleed for the people that created that security hole, and that is a security hole. If you make that an opt-out feature to the point where I don't even know that there are gigabytes upon gigabytes upon gigabytes of information on every fucking app I've ever opened, the time I have opened the app, what I did when I opened the fucking app, what I typed into the goddamn application, in that all of this information is accessible and attached to my name by my Gmail account. No. Fuck you. And fuck the people that made that possible in the ass. I don't care if I made your life harder. I don't care if you're out of a job. I don't care if you become homeless out on the goddamn street and starve as a result of that, because what you're doing is you are fucking with people in a very dangerous way. You are making it so that somebody getting hacked once no longer means that their email is getting hacked, but rather that their life's history, their conversations, and all of their activity are available to anybody who manages to sneak into their Gmail account. And if you think that's okay, fuck you. But thank you for the donation. I highly appreciate it. Let's continue. Let's see if our Jtag removal fixed the board. Unfortunately, it appears to still be power cycling 5 volts, 300 milliamps, 5 volts, 30 milliamps, 5 volts, 300 milliamps, 5 volts, 30 milliamps. So, unfortunately, then again, for those who are coming in late here, I'm discussing the fact that that when you use Google Voice to text on the keyboard of an Android phone, which I've been doing since 2010, somewhere around 2012, that there was an option where all those recordings would be saved to your Google account, to where you could log in with your Gmail information, with your Gmail account and your password, and have access to every single recording made over the past 7 years. The time that you opened an app, what you were doing when you were opening that, the history of everything you've ever gone to, all of that, but also the transcripts of everything you've said, and the original audio recordings of everything you said into the phone, everything that you've said while drunk, everything that you've said while angry. all of the dark humor that you may have said to a friend that was intended for that friend only and for nobody else, all of that shit is saved and associated with your Gmail account. That is not fucking anonymized data. That is not at all. If you have your Gmail account hacked, if you type your password into a phishing form, if I did not opt into the feature, I should be safe in assuming that the only data that you're going to get access to is the information that is inside of my Gmail account. That the worst thing that can happen if I type my password into a phishing website, if I pull a John Podesta, is that you're going to have access to my email. Not that you're going to have access to 7 years of private and personal conversations using my email account. That is not anonymized, and fuck you if you think it is, because you know it's not. Now, let's continue going through this board. Okay, so it looks like over here, we still have more corrosion. These don't look like capacitors near data lines, but rather bypass capacitors around power MOSFETs. So I think that I should be safe if I just do a little bit of cleaning up. We're just going to refurbish these capacitors. There's a lot of flux there, so even though the solder on my tweezers, the flux there on those is obviously expired, we're just going to have new flux over there, and it's going to allow me to redo my tweezers. Not redo my tweezers, it's going to allow me to redo these connections in peace. How's it going, Daniel? Daniel, we redid the front of the store a little bit. I think you'd enjoy. I think you'd like it. How's school going? I'm going to be putting speakers up here soon as well. I think I got some Axiom M60s in storage that I'm going to have in the front. I hate to say this, but as a computer tech, you should have known this. I have known about it for a very long time and told all my customers. Like, again, I've always been aware of the fact that the way Google makes their money is by tracking the websites you go to and making profiles of people. I get that. It's just at the same time, when you sit down and you see 7 years of your conversations available, and you know damn well that you never clicked on a checkbox for it, it's this feeling of being violated that is really, really hard to undo. Yeah, maybe I should have known better, but is that, again, the question that I have is that what any of us really signed up for? Because I think at the end of the day, we just thought, wow, you're giving us a gigabyte of email storage and the ability to send really large files and a really nice interface? Okay, I'll deal with a robot that advertises based on the content in my personal emails. I think that's what we agreed to. I think that is the general societal agreement that we came to. I don't think any of us came to the agreement that, yeah, I'll just totally let you save 7 years worth of conversations that I've had to my email account, where if that's ever hacked, that somebody can then go ahead and listen to everything I've ever said that I didn't even know was being saved. I don't think that was ever part of the deal. And that's going a little far with it. And granted, I'll say, obviously, I don't know everything. There's a ton of stuff that I don't know. And I'm sure that the things that I don't know, that people think I should know, are much more than you would imagine firsthand. But I don't think that this is what any of us agreed to. Let's see. SanDisk command. Are you a solder ball? And I think if people knew that stuff up front and that was their intention to do that up front, they wouldn't be dealing with this. They would not be using that company's stuff. They wouldn't have let them crawl that deep in. But maybe I'm just overreacting. But again, when you sit there and you're just looking through, at 3:53 a.m. on January 20th, 2014, Lewis opened this application. At January 20th, 2014, 5 a.m., here is a copy of a voice recording of what Lewis said while shitposting in his IRC channel or something. Like, God damn, that is creepy. That is just creepity. It's too, no. Ugh, it makes my skin crawl just fucking thinking about it. All right, let's see if we got any change now. And this is one of the reasons that I try to avoid insulting Apple customers or users directly. If you see the things that other companies are doing, I completely understand why somebody would say, I'll deal with an iPhone. I really don't like Google very much. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that Apple probably wouldn't spy and sell you out either, but at the very least, at least they pretend to care about privacy. All right, is my first charge port working? Let's see. Okay, so when I get the 300 milliamp spike, I get an Apple logo. Okay. What happens after the Apple logo, though? Charge, 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 charge. Go, 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 go. Go, mofo. Boot. Boot. This is pretty impressive. It's booting at 300 milliamps. Either it's impressive that it's able to boot and power up at such a low amperage, or the machine is entirely screwed and that's why it's not. Okay, this is booting. Wow, pretty good. Good stuff. So this is the MacBook Air that Paul refused to work on for about the past week, and so I decided to take it out of the queue because I am, unlike Paul, I'm a very considerate person. I care about people having difficult items in their queue. I know that Paul did not want this machine in his queue because he thought that the A1932 was going to be impossible to fix due to the lack of schematics, board views, and donor boards. I understand that Paul did not want to work on this because he believed that it was going to be above his skill level and too hard. And because I am such a kind employer, because I am so benevolent towards my staff, I decided to take this difficult item out of his queue and work on it in my queue. Random. Because I don't want to put you through the hell of having to remove a Jtag connector and then tidy up a little bit of corrosion on the 3 capacitors next to that Jtag connector. I do not want to put you through the hell of opening a device that you haven't opened before the schematics and the board views are out. I would never want to do that to you. So I took on this burden. I carried this cross because I care about you. I hope you appreciate it, Paul. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. Are there any other A1932s I can take out of your queue? He's gonna kill me. See you in the next one. Do you have a MacBook that needs to be fixed? Come by our store, which is open to the public at 186 First Avenue in Manhattan. Are you located outside of New York? No problem. We have a live chat where you can speak with us about the repair that you need, a phone number where a representative will pick up during our open hours where you can contact us about repairs. Send us a machine from anywhere in the world by going to our website and clicking on the mailbox, or simply heading over to sendyourmacbook.com. That's sendyourmacbook.com, where you'll be redirected to our mail-in instructions page that includes the form and the directions on how to send us a MacBook for repair. Don't delay, click our affiliate link down below. When I go over here to voice and audio, play.
I dated a woman 7 years ago who said, comma, it's not your money, comma, but the person you had to be.
And in order for it to recognize my voice easier, I've noticed it recognizes my voice easier if I talk more like a robot. But the point is, every conversation I've had, even if I was not having that conversation on Gmail, is here. Because we've all kind of gotten to that point of saying, okay, fine, if the bot wants to read through my email or have access to my browser cookies so I get free stuff, fine. But if I am using Signal or I am using any sort of other application, or I'm in an IRC app that is not run or owned by Google in any or associated with Google, just if I use that voice-to-text keyboard, without me opting in, you are saving everything I have ever said. And again, I believe I brought this up once, but one individual had said that, listen, it's not, this data is anonymized. You're just hurting the developers if you turn this feature off or you stop using this stuff or you purposely feed disinformation into the product, because that's only going to hurt the developers, those poor developers. This is all anonymized. And it's really important that I bring up that is complete bullshit. That is a Kilted Tim Apple Community Support Forums level of bullshit. Because let's say your name is James Smith 88 because you were born in 1988. So jamessmith88@gmail.com, and your email account gets hacked. You enter, you pull up Podesta and you enter your password into some phishing site or something. You may think that the only risk there, if you hadn't opted into something like this, was your email getting hacked. But in reality, it's not that. It's everything you have ever said using that keyboard has been saved. And this is not anonymized. So if I have, let's say, lewis.rossman@gmail.com, and that email account is then hacked, or if on Google's back end, they are associating lewis.rossman@gmail.com with this my activity, none of this is anonymized data. All of this is not just not anonymized, but it is clearly classified with my account in a nice little ordered list. So when I am making decisions about security or what I'm doing or length of password or where I'm logging in, I'm making those decisions assuming that, if my YouTube account it gets hacked, my Gmail, my YouTube, my videos, I'm risking that. I'm not thinking that that the risk is there, that everything I have said over the past 7 years will be there. And I have no idea what it is that occurred between 2010 and around 2012, from when I started using the voice-to-text feature to the point that it decided to start uploading every single fucking clip and transcripting it and storing it in a place where if anybody ever hacks my password, they can hear and see every conversation I've had for 7 years. This was not me having a nice little alert in my screen where they said, would you like to opt in to all of your conversations being on our server forever? No, this was most likely this is on page 80 of a terms of service and legalese that you're probably not going to read or ever understand. This is it's freaky. All sorts of searches up here. When I first saw this, Steve was sitting next to me, so I thought, just for the hell of it, let's see if I've said anything bad about you here. I typed in Steve sucks. I typed in Steve asshole. I typed in all sorts of nasty words up just to figure out what's the worst dark humor that I have ever decided to say. What's the meanest thing that I've ever said to somebody that I know when I was angry in private? What's the worst joke I've ever told while drunk? And it's all here. I wanted to scrub myself off with a damn Brillo pad. I felt so dirty after this happened. So I would suggest that you check this out, myactivity.google.com. Use the main account with your phone and go through it. Parse through all of it, and also ask yourself, what data did you opt in to Google just collecting, and what data do you know damn well in that list that you would never in a million years have opted into somebody collecting, that you know is only being collected because of some bullshit on page 60 of some terms of service? I mean, just imagine the types of blackmail that could be done with people who have probably said way worse stuff than me. Just imagine all the different ways that this can be hacked. Like, let's say that there are people at Google that are able to get access to this. I mean, you see the internal arguments that are being had at Google when it comes to AI, when it comes to dealing with the government or helping the military. When you see what happened with, let's say, things like the James Damore memo 2 years ago, there are people within Google that are having ideological wars with each other. And these individuals who are very, very happy to just say, like, just shadow ban, destroy, cut you out of a conversation, cut you out of a job. These are the individuals that have access to every single thing you've ever said. And it just kind of makes me wonder, like, how long is it going to be until we start seeing rogue elements within these companies that have these types of ideological bents decide to just start going through people's accounts that are high-profile individuals, finding all these types of things, and just start leaking them? And when that happens, that's when you're going to see the real serious shit start to hit the fan. And it's not even going to be with Google. I think it's going to be with individuals, and when you start to realize the fragility of human relationships. If you have some, let's say if you've ever said something about somebody that you think was probably not something you should have said, was probably something that's best they didn't hear because it was 3 a.m. and you were in a bar and you were angry or agitated or something. Imagine what it's like if not only that information is being recorded and stored in a central location, but also if anybody that works at that company at a really high level has the ability to get to that information or hack into that information. Oh, it's freaky. I'm trying to think of this one case because this has happened before, and I hope that some of you can remind me of the name. There was this one individual that worked at Google. He was really skinny. He had long hair, really creepy. So this would not be something new. I wish I remembered the name. I just remember it was a really skinny, lanky, tall fellow with really long hair, kind of creepy looking. I want you to imagine your worst enemy having access to this type of stuff without you ever having consented to enter the system. And man, I know I'm kind of rambling. It's 12:44 in the morning. I think that if some of you check this and see what's in your myactivity.google.com, that you may find that you feel violated as well.